Hello and welcome to Frontrunner Motorsport. It's very early in the morning, but I've just watched the Las Vegas Grand Prix, as I'm sure you have as well. Quite nice having it this early in the morning. Gets it out of the way and I can enjoy the rest of my day now. I have to say, this is the best race of the year so far, with only one left to go at Abu Dhabi, which will probably not be the best race of the year. So that might justify them going to Las Vegas or having 3 American rounds. I will say, however, it was entertaining, but possibly for the wrong reasons. It was a bit of a shit show. This weekend has been messy, which I guess is, the usual for Las Vegas. I've never been, and I don't really fancy going. Not really my scene, but I can understand why they're there. More than Miami and Austin, to be honest. But I'm not going to talk about the American Grand Prix situation in this video, but I might do something about it another time because I have things to say about it. I'm not too fond of the idea of having 3 American Grand Prix. But this weekend in Vegas was very interesting. Obviously, it's had its ups and downs. The manhole situation, that was embarrassing. It's not the first time it's happened in Formula 1. I seem to remember Grosjean getting damaged by what was either a manhole cover or a storm drain or something. I think, was that in Sepang in 2009? So it happens, but it sort of ruined the preparation for this race. We lost first practice and then we had a longer second practice. It is embarrassing. But the race itself was very entertaining. We got some shocks in qualifying, especially in Q2, and it made for a very interesting grid, as did Sainz's penalty. We had a lot of very good drivers in the midfield, and it was a very messy first corner. Verstappen lunged on Leclerc, got a penalty, which I think was fair. But, I would argue it wasn't. There was 2 offences, surely. Firstly, that he gained an advantage, but I think they actually gave a penalty for pushing a rival off the track, which I think he should have been penalised for both, but whatever. And this was a tricky race for Verstappen, which makes a change. He usually just drives off and you don't see him. But after that first corner lunge, he couldn't pull away from Leclerc at the end of the first stint. Then he made contact with Russell, and I kind of wondered if that damaged his car, but then that second stint, end of the race, once again, you honestly can't keep Verstappen down. This was a scrappy race by his standards, but the will to win is strong in him, and that's admirable, I guess, but this could have gone a lot worse than it did. But in the end, basically a perfect weekend for Red Bull. Perez, literally the race finished 5 minutes ago, and I've just watched Leclerc get him right at the end of the race. And for Perez, he just cannot get these last laps done. But he drove well. He started in 11th, got some damage in the first corner, but he carried on, made some great overtakes, got through the field. He was right up there. He was in with a shout for the win. In the end, 3rd place is not too bad. Secures 2nd place in the championship for him. And so it's basically a perfect year for Red Bull. Really, that one win that Sainz took in Singapore is the only thing Red Bull have really missed out on. Everything else has really gone their way. And again here, I can't fault Verstappen at all. And Perez drove well, but I think maybe a little bit embarrassed to lose out on second on the last lap. Ferrari were interesting in this race. I think Leclerc will be disappointed he lost, because I think the win was very much on the cards. Yes, the second safety car really screwed up their race. In the end, actually, that contact really worked out for Verstappen. It did sort of rein in Leclerc's race. And Leclerc made a mistake, went deep on the brakes and lost second. He made up for it with that fantastic move on the last lap, and definitely worthy of accolades there. But it could have been better. Sainz, I think, did a good job to get back up to 6th. He started 12th, spun at the start. In 6th place, with Leclerc in 2nd and both Mercedes behind him. That's a big point swing in the favour of Ferrari in the manufacturer standings. I don't know how that actually works out, because I think the Mercedes was 7th and 8th, so it's 18 points for Leclerc. How much is it for 6th? Is it 8? So if they get 26, it's going to be really tight going into Abu Dhabi between Ferrari and Mercedes, and that's a good thing. And that's definitely something to watch that race for. As for the actual Drivers' Championship, I think, with Norris not scoring and Alonso dropping back towards the end, Sainz is probably the hotspot for fourth. Hamilton will be pretty much secure in third. Perez is secure in second, so the fight for fourth is like the most exciting battle in the Drivers' Championship, but we do have that fight for second in the Constructors at least. No one is anywhere near Red Bull or Verstappen, so honestly, if Red Bull could just stay at home for the last race. And you know what, it probably saves I know they have contract obligations to be there, but from a cost cap perspective, we should probably save a lot of money not turning up. I don't know how that would work. I think other things in this race, Ocon and Stroll both put in really good performances. I've said with Stroll before, we've seen him peak, and I don't think he's going to get any better. But every now and again, he pulls out a performance like this, and he was brilliant here. Fifth place. Ocon as well got past his teammate when maybe he shouldn't have, but it worked out in the end. Fourth place for him. That really keeps Aston Martin in the fight with McLaren. It looked for a while like McLaren were going to walk past them, but Aston Martin have fought back, and that again is going to be another interesting battle to keep an eye on at Abu Dhabi. Norris, by the sounds of it, did get hurt in that big crash, and hopefully he's okay. The race next weekend, it's the final one of the year. Hopefully he's not injured and he gets to be there, because it'd be a shame for him to miss out on the last race just because. For McLaren as well, it was pretty disastrous with Oscar Piastri. He ran well, he did some really good overtaking. A very, very clever move on his part when he made contact with Hamilton and he got the puncture. He dived straight into the pits, which Lewis Hamilton didn't, and that might be a bit of a rookie mistake on his part. But then maybe in the immediate aftermath he didn't feel like there's anything wrong with the car, or the puncture hadn't happened yet. But I think Piastri diving straight into the pits really, it almost saved his race, but in the end he had to make another pit stop late on, couldn't get back up. But 10th place, he gets a point, but again, I think he'll be very disappointed. Hamilton and Russell both had really scrappy races. Russell drove well and he made overtakes, but I think he'll be disappointed with the 5-second penalty to drop down to 8th. But, I think the collision with Verstappen was his fault. It was just a bit clumsy, and I think the assessment that he just hadn't seen Verstappen come up alongside him is correct. But it is scrappy on his part, and it kind of sums up his year. Hamilton, again, it was a bad qualifying session for him, and being in that midfield is always dodgy. But as it turned out at this track, where it was so slippery at the start, he did get kind of tangled up in that first corner mess. That put him down to 14th, and it was always going to be tough from that position because it wasn't very easy to overtake. He followed Piastri through the field, but when he made the move, again, it was 50-50, but it was still a very clumsy move on his part. And it ruined his race. He got a puncture. He was very lucky to have the second safety car to get him back up, because he was on medium tyres halfway through the race with some very big gaps to make up, even to the sort of lower down runners. So he'd have probably had to pit again as well. He might not have scored points if not for that second safety car. In the end, 7th and 8th, it's not a great result for Mercedes, and it's the second poor race in a row. But I guess it, again, kind of sums up their year. And honestly, if they lose second in the Constructors, it's a big deal. And I think Ferrari will be the happiest of anyone this weekend. As we go further down the field, Aston Martin did a fantastic job, as I said. Williams, I was a little bit disappointed by. Brilliant in qualifying, 5th and 6th. Logan Sargent was honestly fantastic. Just couldn't get it to work during the race. Tyres were an issue. They dropped right down. Same issue with Haas. We saw them at times fighting for the top 10, but as the stints roll on, they dropped back, and that was kind of a shame. AlphaTauri were really nowhere. Alfa Romeo, pretty much nowhere. Kind of usual suspects down the back end of the field. And we saw Hulkenberg and Tsunoda retire late on. In the end, pretty much the usual suspects scoring points. Honestly, it was only Ocon and Stroll being so high up in the points that really is a bit of a surprise. Everyone else is kind of who you expect to score points. But it was still a very entertaining race. There was plenty of overtaking. There was controversial moments. And lots of carbon fibre spread out all over Las Vegas now. And it's interesting that this is a race where they've decided to have it in the evening. It's cold. Coldest race of the year. Probably coldest race for a long time. It got windy. It's unusual. And maybe that's something Formula 1 should look into. These unusual situations where we're putting the drivers in a situation where they haven't had a race like this for a long time, but even if just not this year, and it's something unique, I do hope they keep this race late in the year and at night. Even if it is the only cold race on the calendar, that's fine. I'm not saying have an Antarctic Grand Prix, although it'd be kind of cool. I've forgotten my train of thought now. I'm just thinking about penguins on racetracks. Yeah, have a cold race. Why not? It was a good time, and the track looked genuinely slippery. At the start of the race, that first corner, I mean, Alonso just lost it. Like, it was on his own. It was a good move down the inside. It looked like he was pulling off a blinder, and then all of a sudden it just turned on him. And he wasn't the only one. It was a very, very... I don't know what Bottas was doing. He bumped him twice. And the second time it did look like he just drove into him. It's what I would do on the Formula 1 video game. And I do like the backdrop of Vegas as a racetrack. It looks very video gamey. And I haven't played the latest video game, so I don't know what it's like in the game. But it's an easy stage to turn into a video game, I imagine. I don't have anything else to say. Championship's coming to an end. 2023 is coming to an end. It's Christmas very, very soon. The championship race was over a long time ago. I mean, you can argue pretty much the halfway point of this season, no one was catching Verstappen. Now Perez has secured second, Red Bull well clear in the constructors. It's honestly a 10 out of 10 year for Red Bull. Verstappen hasn't even really made hard work of it this year. It's even this race where he had his moments. The start, it was dodgy. Contact with Russell, annoying. But at the end of the day, he's just quicker than everyone else. No one is really on his level at the moment. It's pretty incredible. And he's on another long run of wins again, which I haven't even kept track of how long this run is. I think is this his 6th in a row? So, I mean, if he keeps this going into next year, Formula 1's going to be a bit of a slog to keep watching. Because it does worry me when one guy is just so dominant. And Verstappen clearly is better than everyone else. It's not just a Red Bull. And I do think it's reflecting badly on Sergio Perez, because Sergio Perez is a very good driver. We've seen it before. He can win races. He won in a racing point. He's taken a few wins for Red Bull. Clearly, he's not on Max's level. He's definitely the Red Bull second driver. But he is still a very capable driver. The fact that he's not even close to Verstappen is very telling. It's a lot like when Sebastian Vettel was taking his 9 wins in a row in 2013. He dominated the championship, yes, but it wasn't just the car. I mean, Mark Webber was his teammate, and again, clearly the second driver, but still very, very capable. And Vettel left Webber in the dust. So, honestly, when you're beating your teammate like this, I think it's always difficult to say. I think whether you're Mark Webber or Sergio Perez, it looks like you're failing, you're lacking ability. Sergio Perez has done enough to finish second in the championship. That's exactly what he should be employed to do. And all year there's been talk of him getting the sack or being replaced. Completely unfounded, and I think Red Bull would be very silly to do it. I think he's a very good servant to the team. If he's willing to play second fiddle to Max Verstappen, then that is a dangerous combination for at least the next couple of years. I don't see anyone beating them. I don't think any big changes in the regulations are coming, so it's up to teams to catch up, and they will over time. But next year, I think again it's going to be a Red Bull show. You have to watch them. Will Verstappen run away with it? Can Perez get a bit closer? We'll have to wait and see, and I feel like it's unlikely. But it's always too early to say. You never know what's going to happen. Literally 4 or 5 months from now. So with that, I enjoyed Las Vegas. I hope you did too. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Thank you to everyone who has. I appreciate all your support. Going to be doing more videos on the Macau Grand Prix pretty much all next week. But we will be watching the last Formula 1 race, and then I'll be reacting to my Formula 1 predictions, which I think are pretty much... they're all over the place. I know my predictions are pretty much shattered into pieces. So that'll be an entertaining video, and there'll be a load more stuff coming as we end 2023 and head into the start of 2024. So thank you very much for watching, and have a good one.